22 minutes before 7 here on Morning Live. So the public sector unions have delayed the conclusion of wage negotiations with government as they say they are not satisfied with the offer that has been put on the table. The Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council allegedly concluded the wage negotiations last Friday. The deal that at hand basically offered employees a 7% increase and mid to senior level staff 6.5% to 6% increases respectively. The Public Service Association, or PSA, said there is no way that they will settle for the wage agreement as it is worse than previous offers. Let's discuss this now. In studio with us, we've got Tahir Maepa, who, of course, is the Deputy General Manager of the PSA. Good to have you, Tahir. Thank you very much for coming in. So we're saying that this offer is worse than previous offers. Let's get a bit of clarity here.
Yes, if you had followed the rundown of these wage negotiations, the first offer that we received, it was on the 26th of January. That was during the time of the ex-minister Mutambi, whereupon the offer basically dealt with few areas that we were happy with. For instance, the issue of the delinking of housing from spouses. You know, the public service, they've got this funny thing of saying that simply because you are married, one will get the housing allowance. So Mutambi's offer was it's going to be dealing immediately. That's one. The second part was that it was a CPI offer plus 2% as it stands currently, which is the offer that we rejected completely because it didn't even scratch the surface as far as our demands. Now, on the 4th of May, when the new administration came in, they then withdrew the Mutambi offer, which by consequence it meant that the negotiations had to start from scratch, despite the fact that we started already in October. And when we started with the new offer, obviously it was just a ridiculous offer that all of us, we didn't even want to look at it. But it was even bad because the negotiators of the state, they came there unprepared, very unprofessional, oblivious of what is happening. They could not explain themselves. They didn't have the figures. So the negotiations had to collapse because of we were sitting across people who don't know what they're doing. Then the new negotiators came in a form of Kenny Govender and so forth. I don't know where the Kenny Govender was hidden all these years, but he resurfaced. But he was there also for one day. Then he disappeared again. The negotiations collapsed again.
This is 9 months later now.
It's 9 months later. Now, what the irony with the whole negotiations, on the 28th of May, then an offer came to surfaced again. But it's an identical offer that we rejected in January. The only thing that changed in that offer is the fonts on the paper. That's the only thing. The fonts. That's the only thing that changed. Then, all of a sudden, Kosatu was singing and saying that we're happy with the offer. Then Pierre said, but what the hell is happening here? This is exactly the same offer that we were given in January. We collectively rejected this offer. There's no way that the mere fact that the fonts are different doesn't mean the offer is different.
Let's just elaborate a little bit on the unions that have actually accepted this and those that haven't. Well, so who wants to sign?
Well, on Friday, the indication was that all COSATU unions, they said they're going to sign. They're happy with the offer that was done through bilaterals, at the exclusion of the PSA, of course. But by Friday, everybody was singing, everybody was happy. That is why the minister called a press conference to announce that the offer was going to be signed, because they created an impression that they are going to sign. But because of the pressure that we mounted, then they capitulated. Only Pope currently signed that particular offer. Satu didn't sign, Nahau didn't sign. In fact, Nahau is saying that the PSA is spreading propaganda. They never said they're going to sign. But we have it on record. But we are happy that they didn't sign, because of it's not worth the paper that is written on.
If we look at at the offer that's on the table right now. So you originally came into these negotiations wanting between 10 and 12%.
Yes.
Obviously, that gradual tiered one where
yes.
some, you know, the
lowest paid will get more and so forth.
12%,
yes.
exactly. What's come as an offer is 7% increase and mid to senior level staff 6.5% and 6% increases respectively.
Yes.
Is this for you completely unacceptable?
Definitely not. You must also remember that when we put our demands, it was before the advent of the VAT increase. We never anticipated there's going to be a VAT increase, and that VAT increase complicated things because by implication, it's no longer 7% for the lowest, it's in fact 6%. But it's even worse than 6% because of the VAT increase obviously raises the cost of living in many areas. It means that our members won't be able to afford the things that they used to afford the previous year.
Yeah.
But what is even more ridiculous, the second year of this 3-year agreement, they are getting even lesser, which is now going down to CPI plus 1.5, the lowest. Now, the projected CPI, what is that? Can anybody explain to me what projected CPI is? It is something that Treasury will come with and say that this is what we project as a CPI. It's not even real inflation. By implication, we are saying to the employer, give us whatever that you want to give us. Then, what was the purpose of these negotiations?
Yeah, yeah.
I want to go back to my members and tell them exactly how much they're going to get in year 2 and also in year 3.
How much would you like them to get? I mean, let's get a figure from you now.
Look, we stand by the lowest staff from level 1 at least to level 7 to get at least about 10%, and the higher levels about 8%. That is the figure that we felt that is something that we can consider.
Yeah.
But what is also problematic is their refusal not to want to do this delinking immediately, despite the fact that they refuse to give us the figures. In fact, how many people are affected by this? We may be making noise about this delinking only to find that it's only about 20 people that are affected, because they use that as a basis to bargain. But you can't bargain on a basis of information that is unclear.
Can we expect some strike action from you if these demands aren't met? Because, I mean, we've been seeing this going on for a very long time. And I mean, when we're talking about public servants, this is a major, major amount of employees of the government we're talking about.
We're talking about a lot of public servants. We're talking about 1.2 million public servants.
Yeah.
We have already declared our dispute. We are busy balloting our members for a strike action. And I'm happy that 4 other unions have indicated now that they are rejecting the offer, and we are hopeful that they are going to join the PSA's dispute.
There's 21 days left.
Yes.
To try and reach this agreement and to sign this trade deal. What's going to happen? I mean, we're sitting at the crux of something that could be very, very big.
It can be very big, and it will be detrimental to the economy of the country. And this is what we've been trying to say to government. If we are not resolving this thing in a manner that is not going to affect the economy, you will bear the brunt for it. And unfortunately, the state decided to keep PSA out of the negotiations, and they went into bilaterals with only COSATU unions. So we were left out completely. And this brought about frustration to us and to our members. Why would you want to leave out the largest general public service union in this country out of the negotiations simply because they don't like what you are saying? And if by the time the 21 days comes and there's no deal, unfortunately, the state is going to collapse, because if our members go on strike, it will cost the economy billions of rands, money that we don't have, money that we need.
Have we, just as a final closing note, the message from the minister? What is the message to you, and what's the way forward? What has been a response?
Well, the minister is confusing the hell out of all of us. We don't understand what he's saying. There was an issue that they raised in bargaining to say that the public service may be bloated. She came in the media and said that she doesn't have scientific proof that the public service is bloated, meaning that she doesn't have evidence that even the fact that the allegation that the salary bill of the state, comparatively speaking, is higher than the average of many other countries. So they don't come with any factual information to convince us. If you want to convince us, come with a research documentation and say that this is the research that we make. They came with nothing, and yet they expect us to accept this nonsense.
Well, I mean, if we look at the numbers on a closing note, South Africa's wage bill is 35% of the 1.67 trillion budget that we have here in the country. It basically accounts for 14% of GDP. It is a heavy wage bill. It is. It certainly is. But that shouldn't be to the detriment of these people that work in these sectors, like teachers and nurses and the police. And these are vital services that I know is who you're fighting for.
Exactly, but we want to discuss that aspect. Where is the bleeding? If we are saying that that is the wage bill, let's have a public service summit. Let's see where we can cut down. And one of the first things that we can do is to cut down the number of blue lights that are running around in our streets. Let's start at the top, and then we go slowly at the bottom. But until we get to the bottom of this, unfortunately, we are not convinced that we'll even consider what they're saying.
Well, there you have it. The Public Servants Association, PSA, talking to us about this lingering wage agreement negotiation. When I talk lingering, I'm talking 9 months. That's how long this has been going on for, with no end in sight, and strike action that could be pending by 1.2 million people around the country if that goes ahead. Tahir's talking to us here in his capacity as the Deputy General Manager of the PSA. That's Tahir Maepa. Let's take a break here on the program.